Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Cassie Creates. So glad you're here. Today we're going to be making this wedding card, this congratulations card. I made this one for some friends of mine who recently got married, and this is actually in their wedding colors, so it was a really nice personal touch. Let's get going. I'm using the Sincere Sentiments set. I got this from a card making magazine a couple years ago, and a 5x7 card base that is pre-made. I'm going to go ahead and start by folding this, but in order to get it nice and lined up, I'm going to use my score buddy to help me. Push it into the corner there on both sides, and then I know that I'm going to be folding it exactly perfect, the way that it needs to fold. And of course, I'm reinforcing this with my bone folder. And there we have it. Next, I am picking out a couple of these sentiments from that sentiment set that you saw briefly earlier. Congratulations and Mr. and Mrs. I thought they looked really pretty together. I cut out some time here because I took my time in deciding how I wanted to lay out these stamps so that they would fit in this square die. This is a single stitched die from the Master Layouts 3 set by Gina K Designs. I love this set. I use it all the time. It's got some great shapes in it. I use 1, 2, and 3 nearly in every card that I make just because they're so easy to use and make your cards have that professional touch. I really love using them. Next, I've got this paper pad from Craft Smart in Chateau, and I love this pad. It's got a lot of really pretty papers in it, of course. You see here that I went ahead and picked this one out. It's a kind of a creamy background with a gold foil. Those florals are gold foil. Now, I cut out a little time here as well because I ended up cutting it incorrectly. This pre-made card base is 5 by 6.5, not 5 by 7. So I had to cut down my first cut by 1/2 inch to make sure that it would fit correctly onto my pre-made card base. So that's what you're seeing here. Now I have the correct size. In order to have these stamp in a place where I can then cut them out, I am placing them carefully onto my MISTI stamping platform, and I'm going to use my weeding tool to just put these stamps where I want them to go. I don't know about you, but whenever I use my fingers, a lot of times they stick to the clear stamps and move them around unnecessarily where I don't want them to go. So using that metal tool really is helpful. Now, of course, I'm going to use my Handy Memento ink chart that I use every time I craft with these inks to pick out what color I'm going to be using today, which is the Rich Cocoa ink from my Dewdrop set. And of course, if you saw in my last video, you saw that I rearranged all of these and how I did it. So I've been really pleased with this organizational system. I think it's working super well. I'm going to go ahead and ink this generously and stamp it down a few times. I used my chamois and a mason jar as a Chucky tool to push down my stamps. And of course, I wanted to do some clear heat embossing over it, so I put down my anti-static powder tool, and here I am inking this up generously with Versamark ink and pushing that directly over top of my stamping that I have already done, and of course putting the clear embossing powder over it. Now, another quick tip, instead of using a fine brush, you can also use your weeding tool if you've got a couple of pieces of the white or the embossing powder in the wrong place. You can pick it off very gently with your weeding tool, which is what I like to do instead of a brush sometimes. Because sometimes even with a brush, if you've got all those bristles going different ways, you can kind of mess it up, unfortunately. You saw I ran that through my Cuttlebug machine, et voila! There it is. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Looking beautiful. I also neglected to mention that, yes, I did use my heat tool. I just cut that out of the video for time. So this is already done. The heat embossing is finished. Now, I had all of these. I'm not sure where that circle is from Master Layouts 3. But the rest of these, I'm not sure where I got these from. I've had these in my die set unmarked. I'm so sorry to not know what they are, but it's flowers. I've got those 2 little flowers. I think I cut out 9 of the medium-sized flower, and then some more of the leaves, and then one of those little branchy looking leaves, because I wanted to have a little bit of variety. And right now I'm trying to decide where I'm going to put these. But before I made that big decision, I thought, well, you know what? How about I make the background paper for this congratulations panel the same color as my ink. So instead of using my ink unnecessarily, I just grabbed my alcohol markers and my swatch chart, and I picked one out that looks pretty much the same. And then you just color around it, right like that. Ta-da! Now it suddenly looks like you have cardstock that color behind your panel, which is really nice. Now then, I'm using a green to very messily create a background upon which I will place these flowers and leaves. Next, of course, I colored in the flowers. I did some in a light purple and some in a cream, which was this couple's wedding colors. And I skipped over the coloring because, of course, you don't need to see all of that. I just very, very basically colored over these die cuts. And you can see now I've got a nice assortment of flowers that we can begin to assemble. So I'm going to take some of this Gina K adhesive dot runner, just a very tiny amount on the back, and I'm kind of using the oils on my fingers to make it a little less tacky, and sticking it down to my glass media mat. It's a temporary stick, so that way I can arrange the flowers how I want them to go before actually sticking them down. And here I am using some liquid adhesive to adhere these flowers and leaves and things onto this background, which you probably won't really see unless you get up close, but it's nice to have it there as a nice finished product and to keep it all as one thing. Excuse my head there. Now you didn't see this part, but I did pop up the 3 purple flowers in the middle with some foam dots there, so they have a little bit of dimension, and then used my liquid adhesive to glue the remaining leaves at a slight angle, so it had a little bit more realisticness to it. Now I'm going to use that same trick of lining things up with my Score Buddy, push my card base into the corner, and push my background paper to be aligned with it also into the corner, so that way they line up perfectly and I'm able to put them down without worrying that it's crooked. It is lined up perfectly with my card base now. Super nice. Now here I am going to color again. I decided I wanted to use this flag from Master Layouts 3, I believe, and I am coloring it with the same purple, just quickly. Same purple as the purple flowers, the light purple flowers. And I am going to take my scissors and then cut this in half because I wanted to I knew I wanted to put it on the bottom part of the card so that way it would match better with the width of the top panels, or panel now that it's adhered. Wanted to match the width of the top panel. I'm using my T-ruler to help me here because I don't know about you, but I have a hard time getting things perfectly straight on my cards. And I just used again some of this Gina K adhesive dot runner, and I didn't like that. It's very forgiving, this tape. You can rip things off a couple of times before pushing them down if you don't think you've got it exactly right. So I'm using my T-ruler to help me get it straight, at least horizontally. I'm trying to find that middle part of the card so it really looks nice. And then when you like your placement, you can push it down. You can see I'm now taking my flowers, and I put them on with the same dot tape. And of course I just had to put it on that circle that was on the very bottom because it acted as the base for these flowers. And bingo! There we have it. That's all she wrote. You can see where I put those flags. I snipped it in half. I put one on either side to match the width better of the top panel. It looked a little strange just having that scalloped oval and the flowers down at the bottom without anything beside them. And I think it turned out really nice. And there's our finished product. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, a custom card made just for friends. It's always really fun when we can do something for our friends and family that's a one-of-a-kind item that they will always remember. It's very special. Well, friends, thank you so much for watching. It was so great to host you today. Don't forget to check out some of my other videos. I have them linked here. I would love to hear your comments and feedback and some suggestions on future cards that we can make together. Until then, bye-bye.